Welcome everyone to the first of these videos as we read St Stephen's together during the season of Lent. And we're in the Nave, the main body of the church. We've got some of the facts under our belts already. We know that this church was built in 1867 and that it was designed by the architect Sir Joseph Peacock. One of the things that's said about Peacock is that he was a rogue architect. There's a mismatch of architectural styles going on in this building. If you look up to the clerestory, the level of windows that runs over the arches in the nave, you'll see that no two sections are the same, each one's slightly different. He wanted to give the impression that the church had been built over a period of centuries rather than over the course of a year, as indeed it was. But we're going to look up to the ceiling, the beautiful wooden ceiling of our church, and it is suggestive of the hull of a boat. And we know already that that word nave comes from the Latin word navis, that means ship or boat. And the boat was one of the images that the first Christians used to describe themselves. Living in that Mediterranean culture, that early Mediterranean culture, where transport was largely through boat, the arrival at the safe port at the end of a journey was so important, so vital. And so that image of the church as those who were being carried to the safe harbour of God's eternal kingdom. We might think too of the image of the ark and the Jewish myth of Noah's ark, where all creation and humankind was saved through entrance into that ship. That too became an image for the church, the ark of those who were being carried through the storms of this world. And for the early Christians, the image of the mast of a ship was suggestive to them of the cross of Christ. They thought of that upright mast and then its crossbeam, very much representing to them the cross of the Lord. Now, all images are only ever partial. There are all sorts of perhaps pitfalls with those images of the church as ark or boat. Easy to think of it as perhaps sailing imperviously through the storms of this life while everyone else goes to hell in a handcart. Better though to think of that image of journey that the boat suggests for us, of movement towards God's kingdom, of movement towards fulfilment, individual fulfilment in Jesus Christ, movement towards the goal of union with God, which is what the church is for. There's another way too in which the building is designed to speak to us about journey and movement. We might think of the arches at the sides of the nave and the pillars, moving our eye down the building, but also that central aisle, marking out as it does for us a processional way through the building. We come week in, week out, in procession into God's house to take our places for worship. We make our own procession up to the altar to receive Holy Communion. The priest goes up to the altar on all our behalf to offer the Mass. And the building is orientated towards the east. At the east end, the altar end, we're reminded of the rising sun. We are orientated, we are journeying towards the dawn, towards the dawning light of God's kingdom. So a building that makes us think about journey, that makes us think about how we are, as it were, those who were in that boat sailing towards the safe harbour of God's eternal kingdom, come into it as individuals on our own journey, making our way to the Lord together, headed towards the dawning light of his kingdom, pilgrims to our eternal home.